This is More Than Construction, a Journey Group podcast about building community. Hello, and welcome back to More Than Construction. I'm Nathan Walter, and today we're going to dig into the personal side of Journey Group and hear the developing and exciting story of one of our own people, Hunter Deckert. Hunter is a recently promoted project manager for SFC Civil, our bridge and heavy highway division, and he has an encouraging story of growth and hard work and dedication that's not uncommon at Journey, but is no less special, and we want to share that on the podcast. So today we're joined by Hunter, who's going to tell us his story, and also Kyle Brockmuller, a longtime project manager for SFC Civil, who has worked closely with Hunter on his journey through the company. So guys, thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
Glad to be here.
So Hunter, tell us about yourself. How long have you been with SFC, and how does it feel to be a project manager?
Well, I guess about 8 years, I started as summer help for SFC while I was going to school, just a summer laborer. And then started full-time about 7 years ago as a assistant superintendent, and then superintendent a couple years after that, and then just promoted in January to project manager. And it's quite the transition, I guess, going from the field to the office, starting off as a laborer, jackhammering on a bridge for a week straight, and now sitting in an office trying to just learn that side of the whole construction process. It's definitely going to be a transition, a learning experience for sure. Yeah. So it's always go physically. Now it's just go all the time thinking about it. So
yeah, definitely. We'll get more into that. I want to hear more about that in a bit. But Kyle, tell us, how long have you worked with SFC? Give us a quick overview of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I started around the same time Hunter did, as a field superintendent. At that time, just remember Hunter out there, as a laborer on these jobs, and I knew he was going to college, saw a lot of potential in him, and, knew he was going to school for construction management, and obviously he had the intentions of furthering his career beyond a laborer, so here we are. He's moved up from a laborer to project manager, so.
Very cool. So you went to school for project management. Tell us a little bit about your backstory. Had you always wanted to go into construction? Was project manager the goal? Are your sights set further? Like, what was your mentality when you started working as summer help?
So I guess coming into summer help, I had never had worked for an actual construction company, done some side work, residential side work and stuff. I worked in a body shop all through high school and during the summer. Actually started going to college for athletic training.
Huh.
I was into sports throughout high school and played sports all the time, and sat in a couple classes, and they started talking about symptoms and broken bones and things like that. I was like, we're going to be done with that. So that next semester I switched over to construction management. I'd always been interested in construction, liked watching the progress. Sioux Falls has been growing for years, it seems like. So always been interested in it, and then just wanted to learn more about it. And I had a couple buddies that were in construction management up at school, so I kind of just took their advice and went for it, and it's been a ride, but it's been fun and enjoyed it. So
that's awesome. How did you hear about Journey?
Well, I actually knew him as Sioux Falls Construction.
Oh, yeah.
So when I was actually applying for the summer labor job, I remember it was right when they were transitioning into Journey. I kept searching for Sioux Falls Construction, like nothing would come up. They wiped it clean or something. I was like, this Journey kept coming up. Like, who are these guys? I didn't know they were in that transition, So. Yeah. So I guess that's kind of how I found out about Journey. I knew them as Sioux Falls Construction. I remember seeing the red trucks all the time. I grew up in T, and when I was in grade school, probably they did that T exit, those couple bridges there on the interstate. Yeah. I remember it being Sioux Falls Construction. I remember Calaland being there, and so nice. That's kind of how I remember Sioux Falls Construction. I guess just always saw them around town, and then when I was going to school, I needed experience, so I knew they were a good company, and I grew up in T, so it was close to home, and
So tell us kind of about the process that you took from moving from summer help to now being a project manager. Was that track kind of set out for you already? Was that something in your own head that you were just like, I want to be a project manager someday? Kyle works with you and he's like, you're going to be a project manager. How did that all work?
I mean, school is definitely they don't really teach you anything hands-on for construction manager. You know, it's not none of the hands-on work in the field. It's more of the management side. So I'd always kind of thought going to school, being a project manager, they bring in some guys and they tell you, you know, you kind of have a career path when you start. You can either go into a superintendent role or a project management role.
Yeah.
I'd always thought it'd be tough to be a project manager if you didn't have that field experience and you didn't have that foresight of being in the field and knowing how things are actually built. If you just step into a PM role, it's like, okay, I'm managing the budget side and this side of it, but I don't actually know how do you bid the work when you have never seen it before.
Exactly.
You know? So I definitely wanted to focus in the field coming out of school, and I wasn't afraid of it. I will probably actually miss the field a little bit. I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
Still enjoy it. So
Definitely.
But so the process coming from a laborer, I guess, into project management is just day by day, learn as much as you can, and you're going to learn something every day. You know, you really probably don't even know what you don't know, you know, most of the time. It's just kind of day by day, take the problems as they come and solve them and just try to be as helpful as you can. And so
can you describe the difference between, and maybe you're still learning this, but what's the difference between working as a superintendent versus working as a project manager?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely still learning that. I mean, only not even a month into it, so it's definitely going to be learning that as that goes. But I guess just bidding jobs, you know, as a PM, coming from a superintendent, you want to sit there and think about every single little detail of how you're going to actually build the job. But, you know, if you do that, you're going to spend way too much time. You don't need to get that detail oriented, I guess, you know. And then when I was handed a job as a superintendent, you were thinking about every process and how is this going to get formed, how is this going to get poured, what's just trying to learn that balance of that detail of a superintendent and a project manager.
Yeah,
and then when you're running a job, I'm sure, you know, you're way more detail oriented, but it's kind of bidding season right now. We're actually bidding 2024 work a little bit. So kind of just learning that mindset, how to change that mindset. It'll probably take a little bit, but.
So Kyle, looking back at your growth in the company, what would you say to Hunter about that transition? Like, is it as hard as it seems? Does it eventually fall into place? What was that transition like for you?
Yeah, I know that was one of the biggest fears I had initially coming in, you know, as a project manager, was just kind of learning the ropes, and things just kind of eventually fall into place. It's kind of a struggle at first making that transition, but, you know, we've got good resources in our office here. You can constantly, you know, ask questions, and don't be afraid to ask questions. They encourage you to ask a lot of questions, and makes that transition process a lot smoother. And I mean, I can already see after a month, he's really picking up on things, and we're sending him off to training for some of our software programs and stuff like that. But I think it'll be an easier transition than what he's thinking. So he's got a lot of good resources. He doesn't hesitate to ask questions, and that's the biggest thing. We're here to help and make this transition a lot smoother. So
yeah, it's good. Speaking of that kind of personal development side, over the course of your time at Journey and with SFC, what opportunities were you given for that kind of personal development and growth as you grew as a leader, even trainings, you know, as a laborer, that sort of thing? What kind of opportunities were you able to take advantage of?
Journey does a lot for their superintendents, kind of like train the leadership side, FMI leadership. You know, I remember going through that and a couple takeaways from there, and then in a leadership cohort too. Currently, It's kind of, I think it's kind of an extension of FMI, kind of reflecting on that, and then a monthly meeting on how you practice those things. And so,
absolutely.
I guess I learned better though in the real world and actually practicing those things and reflecting on how that job went or something like that. So I guess day by day, really just learn from that. So yeah, I mean, I think Journey they put you in a lot of those things that kind of keep you growing up to date. I don't know, you kind of reflect on how you personally lead. And what mistakes you've made and what you can do better. And, you know, mistakes are going to happen, and there's been many of those, but you learn from them and you move on. So
were there any mistakes that you can laugh about now? Like Jared talked about dumping a load of concrete way back when he first started, that he, you know, is still kind of paying for.
So there's a few that are pretty fresh that maybe not.
Maybe not, yeah.
Maybe in about 5 more years, if we do this again, I could probably laugh about it. Mm-hmm. But they definitely happen all the time, every day, and you just kind of you try not to dwell on them, even though it's probably easier to dwell on them. You try to learn from them and like, okay, how do we solve that problem? What was that solution like? And
I feel like that's one of the key indicators in both healthy leadership and just healthy work life is being able to view mistakes in a positive way. Like what can be learned from this versus like just being absolutely crushed and
And see, when they happen, when they happen, it's definitely hard to be positive. But when you look back at the job, you definitely try to look, okay, how do we solve that problem?
Yeah.
Don't dwell on the problem and how it happened. How did you solve it and avoid it next time?
Yeah.
And I think you can kind of use that going forward as a project manager with your superintendents in the field. You can relate with some of the issues you had in the field and kind of express to them some of the hardships you had, and maybe they can, learn or take something from your mistakes as well. So
for sure. And that's got to feel good too. I mean, obviously not in the moment, but like mistakes happen, right? And that's part of life. That's part of work. It's part of being human. But I feel like not every business understands that, that it's like bad things happen if mistakes happen. But I mean, you're a project manager now. So it didn't necessarily like hinder your growth within the company, because I think, again, you're taking this perspective of learning from it and growing from it. And you are working with people that have that same perspective too, and have made made the same mistakes.
So I don't think you're here without ever making a mistake. And if you don't admit that, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
But everyone's made a mistake.
Mm-hmm. It's when you make the same mistake twice. That's
right.
Right.
Yeah. What excites you about being a project manager?
I guess I'm still looking forward to like visiting jobs in the field and still seeing that side, but then just really getting the full picture of the office side and the field side, being involved out in the field as I need to be, but then seeing everything behind the scenes that a lot of guys don't see, and a lot of guys, in the field I never really saw either. Even as a superintendent, you kind of don't see a lot of those details. So just kind of learning that whole process and really getting a full picture. I guess you could say that the project starts when you bid it, in our world, the hard bid. And then even when we mob off the job, we're still not technically done. There's project closeout stuff and everything like that. So learning that whole process is kind of exciting. And so
absolutely. Yeah. It extends in both directions.
Right.
In a lot of ways.
The project scope kind of grows a little bit. So.
Definitely. That's cool. So Kyle, do you have a favorite memory or impression of Hunter working with him in the field?
With Hunter, I know when he was, on as a summer help labor, we'd have bridge deck pours or whatever, where we'd bring on a lot of manpower for those pours or whatever, get our whole division. Basically, for a pour, we'd maybe have Hunter out there, but, he wasn't afraid to jump right in there. We'd be on a low slump pour and get to the end of the pour and everyone's tired. Hunter jumped right in there and he's cleaning up the screeds on that paver and just doing whatever he could to, stay busy. And he definitely wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty and jump right in there and do whatever he had to do. So I know that'll be the same in his new role as a project manager too. So real excited about that.
Yep. And might need to be careful about that, getting your hands dirty.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
What about you, Hunter? Do you have a favorite memory from the field? You said you're gonna miss being out in the field. What are you gonna miss most?
Just the camaraderie in the brake trailer and stuff. Some of the jokes I probably shouldn't say on here, but just the camaraderie with the guys and learning with the guys. I think I learned more from just talking with the guys in the brake trailer. Yeah. The guys who have been doing it, honestly longer than I've been alive. Yeah. There's a couple of them, like Steve Jensen. I had him on a project all summer, and he'd constantly come in to work with a shirt literally older than me from Sioux Falls Construction. And just learning with those guys and working with those guys, I think I'll miss that. Yeah. And then just kind of being on the road was kind of fun too. With the family, it's a lot harder. Yep. I was down in Fort Randall for 2 years living in a camper, and I wasn't married when I went down there, and then I left there married with a kid.
Nice.
So that transition was definitely...
That's a big life change.
Yeah, it's a big life change. So
that's cool.
The road was fun. I had a good time down there. I like to hunt and fish, and that area down there is kind of a dream for guys down there. So didn't get to spend as much time fishing as honestly I thought I was probably going to be able to when I first went down there. But I don't know, that life on the road, it can get tough, but it's also, looking back on it, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So.
What's next? Maybe not next, but what's on the horizon? Maybe it's hard to look that far ahead, still just jumping into things, but is like project management like you've reached the top of the mountain, or is there still hill to climb?
Oh, I guess I don't know. There's a big hill to climb with just project management, a lot, just a lot to learn there. So I guess I haven't really honestly thought too much about that. I still, 5 years down the road, I still expect to be learning every day just as a PM, different challenges, different bridge challenges. We go from a low slump to your basic bridge, like up in Brookings, to like a 6th Street job that we're currently working through right now.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be different from a project management standpoint and a field standpoint. So just right now it's just kind of day by day, just learn as it comes. And
and I know, just to add to that, as I was a new project manager, maybe got some of the jobs that weren't as complex. And as you develop further into that role, get a little more complexity to the projects and stuff like that. So it gets exciting. Some of the projects that are a little more basic, not as complex, there's still the challenges, but not that you get with the more complex projects, which have their own form of excitement, I guess, with just the different issues and fires that may come up in the jobs, and with that more complexity to them. So
no, that's exciting. That's really cool. Well, what a great story. I like I said from the beginning, it's a story that's not that uncommon at Journey. A lot of people have started as summer help, and now they're in leadership here, and that's so cool. But what a special story, and it's your story, and it's personal, and that's really cool. So we're excited for you, Hunter, and excited to watch your continued growth in the company. This podcast is called More Than Construction, and so we like to highlight the aspects of who we are as a company that are more than just building things, and this is one of those things. We're not just building bridges or roads or buildings. We're building people. We're building careers. We're building personal growth. We're building leaders, and that's so cool to watch and be a part of. So that's exciting, and it should be an example and an inspiration, hopefully, to anyone else listening in the company or even outside the company who wants to follow a similar track. Like you can do it at Journey, and if you're looking for personal and professional growth, career development, Journey's the place to do that, to make that happen. If you put in the work and put in the time and the sweat and the labor, and you learn and follow Hunter's lead. That's what we've learned today. Follow Hunter's lead. But thank you guys for sharing your story and joining me on the podcast today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you,
Nathan.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Please remember to follow and share this podcast. That helps us, and it helps you stay up to date on new episodes that come out. Journey Group's mission, again, is to positively impact lives by building community and building careers. So join us again next time as we continue to explore what it means to do more than construction. Thanks for listening.